I just want you to know my business partner loves me. Okay. Hi, we're Mates and Me. We're a mother-daughter team based out of Utah. We do quilt pattern design and more recently fabric design for Clothworks. But all of our quilt patterns have applique and embroidery, and we know that can be intimidating, so we thought we would start a tutorial Tuesday to show you some of our tips and tricks on how we create our patterns.
So today we decided we would start with one of our new patterns, Duck Duck Goose. It's a block of the month, and kind of show you just step by step how we get started on things. So we're going to show you applique today. The first thing is we use a product called Shape Flex. It's just light interfacing. We back our fabric with it. It gives it stability and doesn't show the thread through as much. And so we cut the Shape Flex the same size as our fabric. We usually cut our fabric slightly bigger than the actual block so we can square it later. And then we just iron this together so it's one piece of fabric. Oh, now we're just dealing with one piece of fabric. The other product that we love to use is called Soft Fuse, just our paper fusible web. And we're going to take our Duck Duck Goose pattern, and our patterns always have reversed designs in it for easy applique. So we're just gonna lay this on top of a light box and we're going to trace over it. Okay, so we've got our pattern, and then we're just going to simply trace it with a pencil, these applique shapes right on the soft fuse. Okay, so we've traced our design onto the fusible web, the soft fuse. One side is sticky to iron, and then we're going to press that sticky side to the fabric. So here's my fabric, and I'm going to lay this down and turn my light box off here. And lay this down and iron this. Okay, so now we just have the design ironed on the fabric, and now I can just cut this out. When you have your fabric like this, then you're just going to cut right on this line, because we're just going to do a flat applique. We're not going to do a needle turn or anything fancy. We're just going to lay this down, and then we're going to stitch on the machine around it. Pretty simple. Anybody can do this. Okay, so now our pieces look like this, and this is this duck's beak. So now we have all of our little pieces cut, and we're going to work on this block today. And you can see it's got the placement lines, it's got your embroidery lines on it. We're going to lay that right on top of our light box. And we are going to take our fabric that we've already prepped with the Shape Flex on it, and we're going to lay that right over the top of the duck. Okay, so now you're just going to lay your fabric right over the top of your pattern on top of your light box, and then we are going to now put our pattern pieces on it that are already cut. So here's my duck. I'm just going to peel off this paper off the back, and it's got the film on the back, and that's going to iron right on top of our pattern. We're just going to lay it right on the top. Before I iron it down though, I'm going to put the other pieces in place. This beak goes on top, and then we've got his feet. The paper just kind of slides off. And when you have it exactly how you want it, then you just press it down. I'm pressing on my light box, don't press on yours. This is tempered glass. I don't want anyone to shatter their light box. Okay, so we have our duck all ready to stitch. Before we go to the machine and stitch it, I want to talk to you a little bit about thread. We're just gonna do this very simple. So we're gonna do a zigzag stitch or a buttonhole just around your duck on the machine. And to do that, you're gonna want some machine embroidery thread. We love Isacord. This looks like weight 40. I don't use a ton of different colors. I usually try to kind of match whatever fabric I'm using. You can do like the mint green, and you can do orange. If you match exactly, your thread's gonna kind of blend in with your duck. You can also do like a really dark thread, black, if you want to contrast it and give it a whole different look. I like to just use 1 or 2 threads for the whole quilt because I hate changing threads out. I use the same color in the bobbin as I do the top thread, so that when it pulls up, you don't notice your mistakes as much. So those are kind of a few tips you can do. On this quilt, I just used a really soft gray because it matches the fabric line, and then the orange for his beak and his feet. So we're going to go to the machine and we're going to show you how to do the buttonhole stitch. Okay, so just a couple things about applique on the machine. I use just a regular quilting foot. You can use your basic foot for it as well. If you don't have a buttonhole stitch, zigzag works just fine to applique around your pieces. One of the things I love about our pattern designs is that the pieces are pretty simple most of the time, coloring book style, so they're pretty easy to applique around. I use a very sharp 70-point needle, and I also keep the needle in the down position so that when I'm going around corners and I have to stop, my needle's in the down position, that kind of holds the position of where I'm at. So if you have that option, that's great. I'm going to go ahead and do the buttonhole stitch, and hopefully you can see this. The placement, as you can see where I just put my needle, so my applique piece is in the center of that opening on my foot, and the needle is just right up against the applique piece. So as you can see, I have the needle right in the middle of the foot, and that needle is placed right up against the fabric applique piece. So that's kind of the placement line when you get started to at least do the buttonhole stitch. You want it to overlap on top of this fabric. You want it to kind of overlap. We'll start and then you can kind of see. You can see how the needle's in the down position, so as I'm turning corners, it just stays right where I want it to be. And you're just catching the edge of that fabric as you go around, and a zigzag stitch will work just as well for you. Sometimes you have to kind of lift your foot up a little bit and just adjust it so you can go around those corners. I'm going to get to this beak and I'm going to stop and I'm going to do a small back stitch. And then I'm going to just gently pull my design forward and go to the other side, and when I'm all done I can clip that thread. You're going to want to also do a small back stitch here. Corners are a little bit trickier. Just lift it and move your design where you want it. Make sure your needle's right on the edge of that and catch that fabric. And then at the very end, you just want to do another back stitch to hold it. And then you're going to just pull it out. And we've appliqued all around our duck. And you can see how crisp and nice that looks. And then all we're going to do is just clip this thread that we have right here over his beak. These are just flat embroidery scissors. I like them because they get right, you can get them right up against your thread and pull it. But you can use any scissors. And cut the threads on the back. Voila. We're going to now switch our thread to orange. We're going to stitch around his beak, and we're going to go around both feet, 1 foot at a time. Okay, so I've stitched a couple ducks, and this is my very first block, and you can see how cute it looks. I've got my embroidery on it, and I've got my applique all put down, and we have completed block 1.
All right, see you next one.